To all our listeners around the world. You're welcome to the Tony Tukumbo Fernandez Show, the show that promotes the true life and success stories of African and Caribbean achievers around the world. So, if there's a product or initiative you wish to share, feel free to give us a call on 0788 280 9005. That number, once again, is 0788 280 9005. Or take a few seconds to visit our international blog at www.tonyfernandez.co.uk. It's all about promoting the true life and success stories of African and Caribbean achievers around the world. And we have some amazing guests lined up this year. We also have some amazing guests lined up next month for Black History Month, which is being served in different parts of the world as well. And also, my latest book, The Good, the Bad, and the Naughty, is now out on Amazon. So feel free to check it out. So if there's a product or initiative you want to share, feel free to give us a call and we'll be happy to promote your initiative amongst Africans and Caribbeans around the world. And as always, this week we have another amazing guest today on the Tony Tukumbo Fernandez Show, a profound role model living here in West Yorkshire, and also a research fellow on race equality at the Carnegie Education School in Leeds Beckett University. She's also the co-founder of a very important democratic think tank organization here in West Yorkshire. So it's really a pleasure to meet for the very first time Dr. Tiffany Holloman. You're looking very relaxed, and it's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you today?
Thank you. Thank you, Tony, and the guests. Thank you all for listening in. I'm okay. This is a good day, not too hard at work today. But I'm so honored and grateful to be here and to share my story.
It's a pleasure to have you here. And the fact that you're looking very relaxed show that you had a very relaxed day at work.
Yeah.
It's a good start to the year. And I'm sure our listeners around the world are dying to know a bit about yourself, your background, and the things in life you're most passionate about.
Sure. Okay. Well, as you can tell, I have a U.S. accent. I was raised in North Carolina, although I was born in Germany. Um, I got to the UK. It's a cute story. Okay, so I am disciplined, or my expertise lies in both history and sociology. And after I finished my undergrad at North Carolina A&T State University in history, I was trying to figure out where did I want to do my master's in history. And at the time, my wife and I were living in North Carolina, and there was a ban against same-sex marriage going around in the government. They were trying to produce an amendment. And my wife came to me and she was like, they're using us as a scapegoat because the ban, although it was focused on same-sex people, it was actually about controlling more local government. And I was like, of course, there's scapegoats throughout history. And I thought about it and I said, witches, that was a big one. And she said, you should research that. And so I sent a proposal to a expert here at the University of Essex about researching witchcraft and King James the First. And she was like, yes, come on. So we sold everything we had and moved to Essex and lived in a dorm just like we were teenagers all over again. And eventually from Essex, we got to Leeds, and that's where we're here now. But the reason why I'm staying is because I love the history. Uh, it's it's amazing here how far back it goes. The U.S., we think we're bad, but we're really teenagers in the world. And so when you come here and you see things are way older, it's just like, oh, I love that. And the weather, despite not having an abundance of sunshine all the time, you don't have tornadoes and massive thunderstorms and mosquitoes and snakes and things like that that we're used to. So we actually catch a breather here when it comes to those things. But as far as my passion is trying to make sure that the most ostracized in our society have a platform, a voice where their ideas and thoughts are heard. That's where my think tank comes into play. And my research as well. My research is dealing with mostly race and higher education and the experience of Black and Asian and global majority people and their experience into getting a higher education and what it's like once they become a lecturer or that sort of thing. And again, making sure that they are represented there, because I know when I was young, it impacted me to see someone like me standing in the classroom. So I feel that it's important to keep that going and to spread it further. And so, I mean, I just want what I believe is our fair share of representation in higher education. And as far as my community is concerned, and why I'm co-founder of the think tank is because, again, those that work the hardest are usually fed the least. And so it's about just everything, just trying to give them power and let them know that they have power in their voice. A lot of people feel left out. And between the two major parties here, they really feel that they have no space and no place, and that can lead to extremism. And so, as one of our duties at Same Skies is to make sure that we bring together everyone and then let them know just how alike they are and use that as a power or as a way to get power, get things done. And that's who I am.
Wow. Now, I was reading a bit of your bio,
Mhm.
and some of your current research delves into the underdevelopment of higher education institutions through the exploitation of racial hierarchy in the US and the
Yes.
UK. Um, can you expand on this? And how different is it in the US from the UK in this respect?
Okay. What it means, or what it boils down to for me, is the academic prestige hierarchy. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of generality set in stone for people who receive certain degrees from certain institutions. In the US, it's the Ivy Leagues. Here, it's the Russell groups. And, but a lot of people feel, okay, once you have these credentials, your life is basically set in motion for you. And the knowledge that you have, it should be superior to all else's. That's, again, that's the myth, that's the mythicism around having these sort of credentials. But however, it's the exact opposite. It's not that these credentials should be seen as some sort of prestige. Actually, the word prestige is rooted in the word illusion. It's an illusion that we put these tiers in the academic world. What it actually should be valued is knowledge, the action of knowledge, not just some letters of where a degree has come from, but the actions of the people, the actions of the students that have come from this. Are they really, the whole point of the university system is to make a positive impact and positive developments upon the society and the places you live and so forth. And what my research has found out is that that's not the case. And the from the US standpoint, what I mean by that is I come from, my undergraduate degree was at a historically Black college and university. These institutions had to be created because Blacks weren't allowed to be educated with whites, so we had to create our own college and universities. They were seen as, and still are in some ways, seen as the second tier, as another type of university that doesn't compare to Harvard or Yale and things like that. And But my research has found, I did, my thesis was on Black women who attended both predominantly white and historically Black universities and their experiences. And what it showed was, or what they told me was that no, as far as the rigor and everything else, is just the same at both institutions, even more so at the Black institutions, because they knew the perils they would have to face in the real world. So the professors made sure, they wanted to make sure they were ready for this. And so this is what I mean by academic, the prestige hierarchy and the illusion. And so here in the UK, while you don't have HBCUs, I see now, but what's happening now is a growing movement to decolonize, and people are creating their own pockets of universities and creating Saturday schools. So you can have this alternative and this other knowledge. And I think it, I mean, I hope it's pushing forward, and hopefully it will create something even bigger, especially on the higher education level. But as far as the academic prestige hierarchy, and that's what I mean by that. And by the underdevelopment, I'm saying that these institutions, again, the bigger ones of the world, the ones that's ranking 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 all the time, and producing these students that, again, are supposed to be helping our societies develop. But if you sit back and take a look at where we're headed, especially if you want to do a US and UK comparison, it's not that. The gap of wages is widened as ever been in history. We should not have poverty. Again, if you're producing the best and the brightest and been researching these things all these years, why is this not only a repetition now, but again, a massive growth in these inequalities between people? And to me, that does not represent having the best and brightest in positions of power. You actually need people with actions, and noble institutions is what I prefer over prestigious institutions.
I mean, Tiffany, how important is the spirit of racial inclusion in the world we live in today? And what are your observations on racial inclusion in West Yorkshire?
Okay, to be honest, racial inclusion, I mean, it shouldn't even be a thing. If you want to look at the world on its actual terms, not some sort of dreamland of what you think it should be, but on the actuality of the people that exist within the world, it should be inclusive. That means that if you look at the total of the Black and global majority people in the world, most of us are of some pigmentation. We have the Asians, we have people from Africa. My lineage is from, part of it's from Cameroon. You have all of this diversity in the world. If you're bringing people into the world whose viewpoints are shaped just by an ideology or a 1950s black and white film, and all they are trying to do is get a job and live in this certain cutout of what they think life should be, you're heading into, you're crippling that person. You're crippling their viewpoint of the world. When they actually get out into the world and see the variety, they should be able to embrace it and not fear it and not be afraid of it. And that's where, again, where the animosity is stemming from, fear. I mean, if you, I can't remember the report, but it was a research done by someone who looked at what they consider the most successful people in the world, and they use Wikipedia pages in the background of where these people come from. It's there that most of the people was rooted in coming from diverse places, places with different cultures and different people, because they are more likely to embrace and develop and think outside of the box. That's why racial inclusion, to me, I mean, it should just be a natural thing. It is a natural phenomenon. When a child comes out of the womb, they don't want to segregate themselves off. They don't, they'll do and go anywhere. That's the brilliance and the love of it. It's just that we shrink them into a box. And that is, to me, is that's not natural. And again, that's part of underdevelopment. And so when it comes to, let me bring it to West Yorkshire, I think we have an opportunity to expand upon this. Like Bradford, they're doing it. They're doing an incredible job of pushing the bar and trying to be more inclusive and publicly letting everyone know that they want to do this. And this is, I think, a stepping stone for the rest of West Yorkshire, especially at a time when, like I said, our political issues here in the UK are coming to a boiling point, and leaders and or not so much leaders, but we need to find a way to capitalize on this as a region to either pull ourselves up out of this configuration of underdevelopment with the current government the way it is and say, hey, we can do our own thing. We don't want to lose the NHS, and we do care about our people and we do care about trade unions. We can do that. But again, it's going to take some strong leadership here in our region to see that through. We do, want everybody, we take care of our asylum seekers. We can do that now. The government is so fractured. We have this opportunity to actually be a beacon for the whole of UK. That's what I would like to see. I'm not the one to do it though. I can help, but I don't know if I want to take that on. But that's where I would love to see us going.
Talking about taking that opportunity for us to make that difference as a stepping stone, how important is it for Black people to promote their stories and their history, even in a diverse world of challenges?
As a historian, is something okay. As a historian, people will tell your story if you don't tell it yourself, point blank. And oftentimes that is what happened in history. The victor gets to tell the story and the oppressed or the oppressor, the oppressed do not. And when it comes to the contribution of people of the African and Caribbean communities in West Yorkshire, yes, tell your stories. Matter of fact, build upon them, create your shops, continue to create networks to develop the community, to develop your children, to develop your neighborhood. But what it's going to also do, just in and of itself, is allow other people the opportunity to go in, and people who are not from your community will come in and appreciate what you're doing. They will see how you yourselves had to build a facility just for your background because the government wouldn't do it. And they will appreciate that. But I don't think silence is the answer. Do not, no, no, not at all. Again, someone will write, either they will write your history or they won't write you in history at all. And like I said, and that has been a big problem with the history books up until recent times. And so, yes, they need to continue to push. If your community is not receiving what it needs, or your schools aren't producing the work that's necessary for your children, yes, talk, speak up. If the board or academy board won't get it for you, you all as a community get together, build. This is nothing new for us. We've had to do it over and over again, but just build, but make it sustainable. These things should be continuing and growing, and I think that would just the facilities would speak for themselves. So we won't have to speak as loud. But if we do have to march and go on, we can do that too. But yes, do not be silent. If I could say anything to our community, do not be silent and write your histories.
And talking about telling our stories, I'm sure our listeners around the world this evening will want to know the current initiatives you're working on at the moment, not just in West Yorkshire, but probably around the world.
Okay. One of the biggest initiatives Okay, I'll start with West Yorkshire and expand out. So, Same Skies, we had a book launch back in late July where we had different people from the community imagine what they would like for West Yorkshire. This is what I'm talking about. We had people from carpentry and poetry and plays, all just different people from just the region. It's different socioeconomic backgrounds and religion, all of that. What type of West Yorkshire would you like to see? And so we've published a book about it where they've spoken their words. And so what we're trying to do now is actually take these different chapters and go forward with them. So we have some people, high streets. High streets are having a hard time. You know, a lot of businesses are closing. COVID did not help. And so we're like, what can we do to make high streets more inclusive, but also more developed? And so we're starting meetings about things that we can do as a community to redevelop high streets and everything from, we're also dealing with healthcare and have I got several physicians on hand, you know, to maybe build a little community hub for healthcare and have people have more trust in our healthcare physicians and nurses and sort of things. So that's the next phase for Same Skies, is to actually go from words to deeds. As far as on a bigger scale for me, um, publications. Right now, I'm in the midst of writing, and I'm co-editor of a book that will be discussing the colliding pandemics between COVID-19 and racism, and looking at them both as pandemics and how different people they're telling their stories, as a matter of fact, of how they battled it and what it brought out. And I'm co-writing this with my wife, Dr. Latonia Sila Holloman, and what we're talking about are the Black medical schools that used to exist in the US, because again, we had to have our separate facilities, which means we had our separate education institutions to teach doctors and nurses, but they were closed, most of them. There are only two that exist now in the US, and that's Meharry Medical College and Howard Medical School. But we're talking about how this was a strategic move by the government in the late 1900s to get rid of the Black medical schools. And so we would have to rely on people who have never treated us well, and how that fed into the current day reticence of Black people wanting to get vaccinated, because again, they built this distrust back in the late 1800s and before then, dealing with our bodies. And so, but that's right now, that's probably my biggest project, which is it's going to be published later on this summer. And that is, again, something for the world once we get it done.
And on a very final note,
Mhm.
what message do you have for all our listeners around the world today?
Hmm. I'm going to say one thing, which is don't be silent. I'm adamant about that. I'm more adamant about people telling their stories. And that, I mean, everyone. If you are 10 years old and you have your grandparents around, ask them to tell you a story and you write it down and you keep it. I'm so adamant about us telling our stories and having stories. The other would be to be honest, if you want to create a peaceful world, it starts with you. You don't have to be an academic. You don't have to be a star or anything. If you want to create a peaceful environment, it starts with you. Just growing a plant, giving a plant away, anything. It's the small things that grow to bigger things. And I just want them to know the power lies within them. You do have the power to change the world.
Power to change the world. And it's so lovely to have you here this evening. And keep
You
up the
too.
amazing work you're doing in the community. And God bless you.
Yeah, thank you. You too. I'm trying to follow in your footsteps. You are amazing. Thank you.
We follow you too, and keep shining.
Thank you.